Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really fascinating personal story. It's from a blog series, Hani.Solutions personal blog.
That's right, and we're focusing specifically on, which has this title that just grabs you, from kitchen flames to political whirlwind.
It really does. Kitchen flames to political whirlwind. It immediately makes you think, okay, how does that happen? It suggests this pretty dramatic journey.
Exactly. A path from something very physical, very grounded, the heat, the work of the kitchen, into, well, the much more abstract, potentially turbulent world of politics, big ideas, personal beliefs.
In this source material, this blog post, it maps out that journey. Starts in childhood kitchens, the whole restaurant scene.
Then shifts, edges towards these high-level business dealings, almost accidentally, it seems.
Right, and then dives headfirst into some really complex political and religious thinking and, well, the fallout from that, the consequences.
So our mission today in this deep dive is really to walk through that transformation with you. We want to pull out those key moments the author shares in this piece.
Yeah, understand the changes in perspective, the impact of these experiences. It's about getting a feel for those transitions, those moments the author crossroads. Big choices, or maybe times when they were just swept along.
It's quite a story because it packs years of change, learning, some pretty intense stuff, into this narrative that feels, deeply personal, but also connected to bigger things happening.
From hands-on food prep to ideas and their consequences. Big leap.
Huge leap.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Where does it start? Right back at the beginning, those kitchen flames from the title.
Yeah, the source takes us to Kellerdash. We're in Uncle Esmail's kitchen, and the author is just 9 years old.
9. Wow, that's young to be starting something that becomes so central.
It is. And the writing, it's really sensory here. The author mentions the steam from the pots, that really specific sound, the screeching metal spatulas on giant cauldrons.
You can almost hear that, can't you? That abrasive metal on metal sound, feel the heat.
Totally. And these details, they're not just color. They're clearly etched memories. They bring that whole environment right back.
And the author reflects on this moment, saying they never would thought that moment would shape the main line of my life for nearly 12 years.
That line, it carries a lot of weight, doesn't it? Yeah. It shows how these seemingly small childhood experiences can just set you on a path.
Absolutely. Helping out in the kitchen at 9, and boom, that's the dominant theme for over a decade, right through your teens.
The 12 years, yeah. The rhythm, the demands, the whole culture of that industry, it all stemmed from that starting point.
And that reality, it didn't stay small. The story moves pretty quickly from Kellerdash to Uncle Esmail's wedding hall in Karaj. That sounds like a major step up.
Oh, definitely. A wedding hall.
Yeah.
That's a different scale altogether. More people, more food, constant pressure.
High stress, I imagine. Tight deadlines.
For sure. The source says the place was just packed with guests and dishes. The workload sounds immense. It even mentions the author dreaming of plates and spoons at night.
Wow. Dreaming of plates and spoons. That tells you how much it took over their life, mentally as well as physically.
Exactly. It permeated everything. But it wasn't just about the physical work, the cooking and cleaning. The author stresses this part too.
What's that?
Learning how to live with people, understanding human emotions. And there's this one phrase that really stands out.
Which one?
Learning how to laugh from the heart or cry like a dishwasher silently so no one would notice.
Oh man, cry like a dishwasher silently. That hate's hard.
It's such a vivid metaphor, isn't it? For that hidden struggle, the need to keep it together on the surface while maybe falling apart inside.
Yeah, because the dishwasher is essential but unseen, right? In the background. So crying like that, it's about suppressing your own pain while a party goes on just outside the door.
Precisely. The contrast between the public celebration and the private, maybe silent difficulties of the people making it happen. It speaks to a certain kind of resilience, maybe learned resilience.
Resilience learned out of necessity, probably. Compartmentalizing emotion at a really young age in this super demanding place.
Seems like it. And what kept them going through all this? The source is pretty blunt about it.
What does it say?
The dopamine rush of money and chaos.
Okay, straight to the point. Money and chaos.
Yeah, that phrase really grounds it, doesn't it? The dopamine rush, that immediate reward, the buzz from earning money, especially when it's hard work.
And the chaos part. The appeal of that high-pressure, maybe unpredictable environment.
Could be. Managing that pace, dealing with the unexpected, and getting that immediate financial feedback. Yeah. It's a powerful mix. You can see how, for a young person, that might feel way more real, more rewarding than, say, studying for exams.
Which brings us neatly to this big decision point, a real crossroads, because the source says, despite being so deep in this restaurant world.
You were also a top student in high school, even coached friends who did get into university.
Right, so the potential for the academic path was absolutely there. It wasn't like work was the only option.
Not at all. They were capable in both areas. This wasn't someone falling back on work because school wasn't working out. It was a genuine fork in the road.
And the way they made the choice, dramatic. On exam day, I just wrote my name and walked out.
Wow. Just like that. No hesitation, just done.
It's such a decisive act. Writing your name says, I'm here, but walking straight out says, I reject this whole process. A very clear break.
A conscious choice. And the reasons given are quite simple on the surface.
Yeah. I didn't feel like it. I wanted to work. I wanted to be myself and make money. That last part. I wanted to be myself and make money. What do you think be myself really means there?
That's the interesting bit, isn't it? Be myself. In contrast to university, maybe it meant feeling more authentic, more real when engaged in the working world. Defining identity through action, through earning, rather than through academic study.
So finding their sense of self in the hustle, in the tangible results of work and money, rather than maybe a more structured, long-term academic path.
Possibly. Choosing independence, defining yourself on your own terms through your own efforts and financial success. It's a strong statement of self-definition for someone that age.
It really is. And that choice, walking out of the exam, fully embracing work, leads directly to the next major setting in this story, the Yaftabad restaurant.
Yes, and this feels like a significant shift in scale and environment again. The author is 17 now.
Still very young.
Incredibly young. And this new restaurant, it wasn't just Uncle Esmail's place. It involved partners and, get this, the richest man in Iran.
Okay, hold on. The richest man in Iran, that changes everything, doesn't it? That puts this restaurant in a whole different league.
Absolutely. It signals connections right at the very top. Wealth, influence.
Yeah.
This isn't just a local eatery anymore. It's potentially a hub of serious power.
And the location adds to that feeling. It was in the Yaftabad furniture market.
Yeah. The heart of the Yaftabad furniture market, described as booming. A thriving market is already a place of deals, of money changing hands, putting a high-end restaurant right in the middle.
It becomes a natural meeting place. A place to potentially make those deals happen over lunch or dinner.
Precisely. It's not just about the food. And the description of the upper floor really confirms this. It wasn't just another dining area. It was a real VIP lounge.
VIP lounge. Okay, so exclusive access?
Definitely. The source lists, who was up there, top government officials, market tycoons, the movers and shakers, people with real clout, shaping the economy, influencing policy.
This was where the elite gathered.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And the activities. Not just socializing. The source mentions huge checks and deals that could shape the future of an entire city.
Whoa, shaping the future of a city. That's heavy stuff happening over dinner.
It paints a picture of decisions with massive consequences being made in this semi-private space. High finance, political maneuvering. It's a world away from the wedding hall chaos.
And the author's role in all this, at 17.
Their role was unique, privately serving these strange characters, as they put it. So they were right there, physically present, bringing food, drinks.
But needing to be invisible, almost like furniture.
Exactly. The author captures it perfectly.
Yeah.
Having ears that silently listened and eyes that weren't supposed to see. You have to absorb everything but pretend you noticed nothing.
That sounds incredibly intense, being that close to raw power, but having to act completely oblivious.
It must have been. The author even says, I couldn't believe someone my age was getting this close to such a world. There's this sense of wonder, maybe disbelief, at having this kind of access, being an anomaly.
A young kid witnessing things usually hidden behind very closed doors.
And the source emphasizes that hidden nature. Deals made with whispers and brief laughs being the only clues. Very coded, very discreet.
Assuming a level of shared understanding, maybe, among those powerful figures?
Could be. Or just extreme caution. And interestingly, the author mentions not always grasping the significance at the time.
Right, hearing things that only clicked later when I'd read the news or see events unfold in the city.
That's a fascinating detail. It directly links the private conversations in that lounge to public events. They were witnessing the seeds of news stories being sown, getting these fragmented glimpses of decisions that would later impact thousands, maybe millions.
Yeah. And the author hints that there's more to it, saying many words and incidents from that time still remain with me. Stories that one day, maybe, I'll speak about.
Ooh, okay, so there are untold stories there. Things may be too sensitive or complex to share yet. It definitely adds intrigue.
It does. It suggests these weren't just passing observations, they left a deep mark. These big stories were unfolding behind those elegant doors amidst luxury meals. And the witness was this bewildered teenager. It's quite the image.
That contrast is stark. And being immersed in that world, even as an observer, it had a psychological impact, didn't it? The source talks about pride.
Yes, a growing sense of pride. My pride grew by the day. I felt the world needed me. And then this crucial bit, that dangerous feeling everyone wants me, took root deep inside.
Dangerous feeling. Why dangerous, do you think? Well, being close to power, feeling indispensable even in a service role, it can inflate the ego, right? Especially when you're young. Feeling needed or wanted by these important people is a potent thing.
More potent than just earning money, maybe. A different kind of reward.
Perhaps. It's about status, perceived importance. But the author, looking back, sees the danger in it. They say this pride grew without me realizing that life never stays sweet for long.
Ah, foreshadowing. So this pride was maybe fragile.
A vulnerability.
It seems that way. Pride based on proximity, rather than maybe solid personal achievement, might not hold up well under pressure. The author seems to realize, in retrospect, that it left them unprepared for difficulties, blind to the fact that this kind of access and feeling of being wanted can be temporary.
Okay, so there's this external world of power being observed, and this internal feeling of pride growing. But the author also mentions something else brewing, an inner storm. Yes, and crucially, this inner turmoil is linked directly to what they were seeing in that VIP lounge. The author says, "Until then, I was religious, but the things I had seen had shaken my beliefs."
So the reality of that world, the deals, the power plays, maybe the ethics of it all, it clashed with their existing religious framework.
That seems to be the implication, a kind of cognitive dissonance. Seeing how power and money actually worked, maybe seeing hypocrisy or compromises, it forced them to question things deeply. How does faith fit with this reality?
A real crisis of belief, triggered by these observations.
It sounds like it. This inner storm suggests a period of intense struggle, trying to reconcile what they believed with what they were witnessing day in, day out.
And it's in this state, this period of questioning, that they encounter a new voice, a new influence.
Right. The source introduces a speaker named Casimini Borgherdi.
Okay. And what was the core message the author took from the speaker?
The source presents it as speaking about the idea of separating religion from politics. And just to be clear, we're talking about this purely from the perspective of the source. This is the idea the author encountered and how they perceived it.
Understood. We're focusing on the author's journey here. So this idea of separating religion and politics, why did it resonate so much with the author, who described themselves as a truth seeker?
Well, think about it. If you're seeking truth and you've just witnessed a world where power, money, and perhaps elements associated with the establishment seem tangled up, maybe even corrupt,
then the idea of separating them might seem like a path to a purer form of both. Purer faith, maybe cleaner politics.
Exactly. The author might have seen the fusion of religion and politics as the root of the problems they perceived, like hypocrisy or even violence. Separating them could look like a way to liberate faith from political compromise and politics from religious dogma.
And the author apparently saw this not just as a personal solution, but something bigger. They felt it was a path to salvation for Iran, an Iran tired of hypocrisy and violence.
So they connected this philosophical concept directly to the state of the country, as they saw it. It wasn't just an abstract idea, it felt like a potential cure for national ills, a hopeful vision.
And personally, how did it help them reconcile their own internal conflict?
The author felt embracing this allowed them to stay true to both my love for God and my love for humanity, which is interesting.
How so?
It suggests they might have felt the existing entanglement of religion and politics was somehow forcing a choice between God and humanity, or maybe causing harm to humanity in the name of a particular interpretation of God or religion. This separation offered a way to hold on to both core values simultaneously.
So this idea felt like an answer, a way forward, both personally and for the country, a moment of clarity, maybe hope after the inner storm.
It seems like it offered that, yes. A path that felt truthful and potentially transformative, but that I hope didn't last long.
The whirlwind part of the title starts to come into play.
Afraid so. The source describes a very clear and harsh reaction from the authorities. The government decided to silence this group and its ideas.
Silence them. So this idea, this movement, was seen as a threat.
Clearly. And the methods described were not subtle. The source lists repression, arrests, threats, and an atmosphere of fear.
Wow. That's direct, forceful suppression. Not just disagreeing, but actively crushing the movement and intimidating anyone involved.
It's a stark reminder of the power dynamics at play. The author was drawn to an idea of truth and salvation, but the state saw it as dangerous and reacted with considerable force. Creating fear becomes a tool of control.
And the author themselves got caught in this, despite being young.
Yes. The personal cost was high. The source states, I too suffered both mentally and physically.
That's brutal. The stress, the fear, potential direct harm. It sounds devastating.
It does. Living under that kind of pressure within an atmosphere of fear takes a huge toll. It wasn't just about ideas anymore. It had become about survival and enduring real harm.
And this suffering led to a withdrawal, a retreat.
Yes. A necessary one, it seems. The author says they had to retreat to a village to recover my voice and soul.
Recover my voice and soul, that says a lot. The repression didn't just hurt them physically or mentally, it silenced them, damaged their core sense of self.
That's how it reads. The voice being the ability to express beliefs, the soul being that inner core, perhaps tied to their search for truth, their faith, their humanity, which had been so badly shaken and attacked. Retreating to a village implies seeking sanctuary, a quiet place to heal those very deep wounds.
Okay, so a period of intense political religious engagement, followed by severe repression, suffering, and then a necessary retreat to heal. What happens when they come back?
Well, upon returning, they're immediately faced with another major choice, another crossroads.
Really? What was it?
An offer comes through, a tempting one described as enticing. It was to return to that same luxurious restaurant in Yaftabad.
Back to Yaftabad, the place with the VIP lounge, the deals, the place where their beliefs first got shaken.
The very same place. And the offer came with perks. Better pay and more freedom.
More freedom? That must have sounded appealing after the repression, and better pay is always tempting.
You'd think so. It's a path back to a world they knew, maybe one that felt powerful or glamorous compared to what they'd just been through. But this time, things play out differently.
How so?
Family steps in. The author mentions their mother and Uncle Bagger were worried.
Understandably, I'd say, seeing what the author just went through.
Exactly. Their concern seems rooted in that recent trauma. They saw the path associated with Yaftabad, or perhaps the ideas encountered there, as dangerous.
And how did they intervene? Forcefully.
The description is gently but firmly steered. It sounds like guidance born of deep concern, not necessarily an ultimatum, but strong persuasion. Supportive, yet directive.
Steering them away from Yaftabad, presumably?
Yes, and towards an alternative. Uncle Bagger's new restaurant in Asabad, Tonakaban.
Oh, Basabad, Tonakaban, that sounds different from Yaftabad. Less central, maybe. Less high profile.
That's the impression. Likely a move away from the intense center of power and business in Yaftabad, towards something more local, more contained. And working directly for Uncle Bagger again implies a closer, perhaps safer, family environment.
And the source gives a reason for the family's guidance.
Yes, it explicitly suggests the family believed this new restaurant was a safer place, away from risky thoughts and dangerous paths.
Risky thoughts and dangerous paths. So they directly linked the previous suffering to the ideas or environment the author had been involved with and wanted to physically remove them from that sphere.
It appears so. Safety became the priority for the family. This choice, this crossroads, wasn't primarily about the author's ambition or intellectual interests anymore. It was heavily shaped by the family's protective instincts following a period of significant danger and suffering.
It's another example of those currents the author mentions later, isn't it? This time the current is family concern, pushing them in a particular direction for safety.
A very powerful current indeed. It highlights how our paths are rarely shaped in isolation.
So this leads the author to reflect on all these decisions, these turning points. They say they can still hear the echoes of those decisions.
Yeah, the past isn't just past. The choices made, the paths taken or not taken, they continue to resonate to shape the present.
And this leads to that really interesting, almost philosophical point about control. We always think we're in control of our lives.
But some events sweep us away like a river current. That's the quote.
Sweep us away like a river current. That's a powerful metaphor, especially after hearing this story.
It really fits, doesn't it? There were moments of clear agency walking out of the exam, choosing to follow Bourdieu's ideas. But then there were these other forces.
Like being drawn into the orbit of the Yaftabad VIP lounge, the sheer force of the state repression, the strong protective pull of family after trauma.
Exactly. Those feel-like moments where the current was incredibly strong, pulling the author along, maybe overriding their individual plans or desires. It reframes the story beautifully.
It makes it less about just individual choices and more about the dance between agency and these larger forces, social, political, familial.
It's a perspective that probably resonates with a lot of people. We make our choices, but life happens, history happens, and sometimes we just have to navigate the currents as best we can.
But the author makes it clear this excerpt, this part of the story, doesn't end with that reflection. There's a teaser for what's next.
Oh yeah, and it's intense. It paints a really vivid, almost chaotic picture.
What does it say?
It talks about the night the district turned upside down. Describes streets turned into real battlefields. The city trembled. It mentions the walls of Ingalav Street feeling the chants, the cries, and the smoke.
Wow. That's incredibly dramatic. Battlefields, trembling city, chants, cries, smoke. It sounds like a first-hand account of major unrest or conflict.
Absolutely. Visceral, immediate language. And the author stresses their position within this chaos.
What do they say?
Was the last person to leave that area, and I saw everything to the very end.
The last person saw everything. That promises a unique, potentially harrowing eyewitness perspective. Not someone observing from afar, but right in the middle of it until the absolute end.
It suggests a level of detail, maybe endurance, that could be quite revealing, staying through the worst of it.
And the outcome of that night.
Starkly put, a great tragedy unfolded.
A great tragedy. Okay, so whatever was witnessed, it ended badly. Significant loss, suffering. It sets a very somber expectation for the next part.
Definitely. And right after this tragedy, the source hints at the immediate consequence for the author. A journey to the north and the start of a new chapter.
So the events of that night directly led to leaving that place. Another forced move, perhaps.
It implies that, yeah. A departure precipitated by trauma and tragedy, marking another major shift. Another turn dictated by external events. Another powerful current.
So looking back at everything we've covered from this one episode of the blog, it's quite a journey.
It really is. From those early kitchen days, the wedding hall hustle,
to the unexpected window into elite power in Yaftabad, the internal crisis of belief.
finding an appealing idea, facing brutal repression for it, retreating to heal.
Then being guided by family towards safety, and ending with this foreshadowing of witnessing a major tragedy that forces another move.
It's a narrative packed with shifts in environment, perspective, fortune. It shows how personal ambition, intellectual searching, political forces, and family ties all weave together, sometimes clashing, sometimes guiding.
And reflecting on it, it really makes you think about your own life, doesn't it? Those small beginnings, the places you inhabit, the people you meet, how much do they shape your path?
Yeah, and how do you navigate your own crossroads? What drives your choices? Ambition, belief, fear, family? And have you ever felt caught in one of those river currents?
Those moments where larger events just seem to take over. It's a compelling way to think about how lives unfold, that mix of control and circumstance.
The author's story, even just this part of it, is a really potent illustration of that complex dance.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into this excerpt from kitchen flames to political whirlwind. Thanks for joining us as we explored these shifts, these crossroads, this really powerful personal account.
Thank you. It's been great to unpack it. And as the author makes clear, the story is definitely not finished. That preview of the next part, it sounds crucial.
It really does. Witnessing a tragedy, being the last to leave, that promises a very direct and intense continuation of the story. Definitely something to look out for.
We hope you'll join us next time as we continue this deep dive. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it.